really is. Moving on from this, though, Premier League predictions. Look, what we're going to do first, because it's easier to get out the way, is predict who's winning the league, because otherwise, when you do your top fours, it reveals it anyway. So we're going to start off with who is winning the Premier League this season. I want the reason, and then I want to know the team. You might reveal it in the reason. I want the reason first, then the team if we can. Viewers, we want to hear from you on this. We're time-stamping it as well. The EPL winners, I'm just putting this timestamp in there. EPL winners 2026 predictions. I'm going to go to Henry first. Why is the team winning it before you reveal it, my friend?
The team I'm choosing to win the Premier League is because, one, they've had the best summer window, in my opinion. They've just signed the best attacking midfielder from Germany. They've also got the player on their team who had the best individual season in Premier League history, Mohamed Salah. I think they've got the best director of football in probably England, maybe Europe right now, running things in Edwards. And I think with the players they're bringing in, plus Alexander Isak when he signs, I think Liverpool will not win the league. I think they will piss the league, and I think they will hit 85, 87, 88 points this season. I think they're the team to beat. I think they're going to have a target on their back because people are going to change the way they play against them. A lot of teams are going to play very, very low blocks. You're going to see teams playing disgustingly low blocks, parking the bus pretty much at every moment. But that's why they've signed players like Florian Wirtz. I also think they've with the new signing when they signed Gahey, I think their defensive options helps them go into the latter stages of the Champions League this season as well. And I think they'll take both the domestic competitions more seriously. But yeah, I think Liverpool will win the Premier League, and it will be quite convincingly.
Kate.
I have gone for this team because I think they've had the best window. They're going to be bringing in more players, which is going to make them even stronger. I do think if Man City sign Rodrigo, it'll be closer come the end, but they've got such individual brilliance and they've brought in the likes of Ekitike, but I've done Liverpool and I've done them to win, get 93 points. I think they'll win it quite comfortably this year. I just think they look a different class to everybody else. But yeah. I do think if they do get Rodrigo, Man City, that it might be closer than that.
Okay. David?
I'm going with this team. I don't think they're invincible. I think people are trying to ignore the fact that there are some issues that they do have and they do need to address. Or maybe because of the style of football they play, they have issues anyway. But I'm going with this team because I believe overall they've got the most quality. I think they've improved in quite a lot of areas. And it will be interesting to see how they work out the balance in the team, because obviously they've got rid of some players and they put some new players in and so on. But I just think they've added too much quality to not be, in the current moment, my favourites to win the league. So I am going to go with Liverpool. But I think it's going to be very close between all of my top four teams.
Okay. Anton, who you backing and why?
So usually I don't do this until after the transfer window is over because there's so many things to change. So I'm just going to go by what the teams look like right now, like if the window were to shut today. And in that scenario, I'm actually going to go differently than everybody else. I think Manchester City are going to win. I find it very, very hard to think that Pep Guardiola is just sitting there and assessing the situation and being like, I'm just going to allow Liverpool to win back-to-back Premier League titles. I think he's kind of replenished the players that were getting older with younger versions in the team. It's interesting to see how that might, pan out. But yeah, at the moment, it looks like it's likely that they might get Rodrigo. But I think Man City, I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win the Premier League. I just think sometimes when it's too obvious that everyone kind of thinks it's going to go one way, that somehow it ends up going in a different way than people expected. I just think life isn't that predictable.
Okay. So tell me again who your prediction is for?
City.
So sorry, I put a note down and then I was like, did I write the right team down? Sorry. Tom, I assume we all assume you're going for Liverpool, but maybe you'll surprise us.
There might be some surprises throughout, but I think this one's pretty set. I think that in terms of looking at where the weaknesses were in this team last season, you looked at fullbacks, you looked at number 9, and you looked at potentially creativity from midfield. And to address that, they were on board the best young left back in the Premier League last season, the best wing back in the Bundesliga for the last 2 years. In my opinion, the best 10 on the planet. One of the most in-demand strikers from the Bundesliga.
Best 10 on the planet?
I think Wirtz has been the best 10 on the planet for the last 2 years.
You haven't watched more than 10 games, Thomas.
I've watched 11, thank you very much. And not only have they won and bought that, one of the best, most in-demand strikers from the Bundesliga, they're potentially going to go add who was the best striker in the Premier League last season, on top of, a very good young centre-back and a Premier League proven centre-back who's only 25, got loads of leadership. So that means that the weaknesses have been strengthened. The strong spots are still incredibly strong. We've not really lost much in terms of, those areas. So we've still got Mohamed Salah, who came off the back of the best season in Premier League history, arguably. We've still got Virgil van Dijk, who is, in my opinion, the best centre-back on the planet. We've still got Alisson Becker, who's the best goalkeeper on the planet. There's a lot of pressure this season, but I think the football club should embrace that. It's not time to play the underdog card anymore and be all leopard in the tree or whatever. We're the favourites. We spent the money to be the favourites. Let's embrace that. So I'm going Liverpool to win the Premier League this season.
Big claims there. Viewers, listen, give us your thoughts, give us your opinions. Who is going to win the Premier League this season? We want to hear from you. We want your thoughts. We want your feelings. We want your opinions in the comment section below. We're going to come to the Super Chats later. We've got a lot of Super Chats to go to later on different subjects. But this is an interesting one that weren't on the agenda for today, but we'll put it out there. Who will underachieve and surprise folks this season? Who are your biggest underachievers and your biggest surprise package? I'll go to Henry first on this.
Biggest underachievers, I'm going to go Aston Villa. I don't think they've strengthened much. I think obviously Jacob Ramsey's left today. I think Rodgers could still maybe leave later on in this window as well. I don't think they're going to go out and spend, big money on players. I just don't. Closely followed by Newcastle. I think Elanga and bringing in Rodgers is not the same as Alexander Isak and Visa, but I think Alexander Isak will leave Newcastle. But I think either Villa or Newcastle. But I'm going to go with Villa. And surprise package, Tottenham. I think Thomas Frank is a completely different manager and a completely different shape to what we had last year. I know obviously we lost last night. And I'm not making excuses for injuries, but we did have quite a few players missing. I think he's tactically better than some of the managers we had in recent years. The only question I do have is how are we going to manage Premier League and Champions League? But I do think even if we're knocked out of the Champions League quite quickly, I think we will climb up that table quite quick, especially with Eze coming in, Savinho. I think Kudus is going to be unbelievable for us. The fact that he can play a lot across the front line as well. I'd even chuck him up front over Richarlison at this point. I mean, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people.
Okay, how about yourself? Who are the biggest underachievers and the biggest surprise packages of the season?
Underachievers, I'm saying this with a lot of hope as well, that it's Nottingham Forest, because I think their fans have got way too big for their boots, Wolfie included. I think that their last season was a bit of an anomaly, and they're going to have a smackdown to earth this year. And overachievers or surprise package, I'm going to go Sunderland, because I think they've done some fantastic recruitment in this window. And Xhaka, I think, is going to be one of the best signings of the summer. And I think I don't think they're going to pull up any trees and start winning loads of things, but I don't think they're going to be close to relegation. I think they'll stay up quite comfortably. So they're my surprise package.
Okay. David?
Underachievers, I'm going West Ham. Don't like Graham Potter. Don't like their midfield. Don't like their defence. Apart from Juve, I think Juve's actually quite good. Don't like their forwards apart from Jared Bowen. So yeah, I'm gonna go with West Ham. I think they're gonna finish quite low. And then Kate, I agree with you. My biggest surprise is going to be Sunderland, just for the fact that most of the teams that have come up in the past 5 years gone back down. I think if one of them survives, they've done very well. And Newcastle, God, Sunderland are a team that I think are really trying to stay in the Prem. They're not. I feel like when I look at Leeds and I look at Burnley, they're almost preparing for being the best in the Championship again. Whereas I feel like Sunderland are actually making moves where it's like, no, we actually want to stay in the league. So I'm going to
go. Anton.
So there are two I have for underachievers. The first one is because I have to be consistent with what I just predicted before, which would have to be Liverpool, because with the team they have now, if they don't win the league, I think it's a massive underachievement. But in reality, I actually think Brentford will be the biggest underachievers. I think they've been very, very comfortably a mid-table side, and I think they're going to get relegated this season. With the change at manager, all the players that have gone out, I actually think they'll be playing in the Championship next year. So I have Brentford as the biggest underachiever. Then surprise, I think it'll be Manchester United. I think people are thinking they're going to be finishing lower than what they really will be. And I think this year the top six sides, whatever the top six will be the top six. And I think Man United will finish within that top six, which, going from 15th last year. And I think Spurs as well in a similar category. I think they'll also have, just like Henry said, I think they'll also have a really big season.
How about yourself, Tom?
Underachievers, I'm going to go for Forest, because I just think that the style of football isn't sustainable for another season where they go, challenging for them European spots. And I also think the fact that they're playing Europa League football this year, I think that might hinder them. I could see them coming for 13th, 14th, which, might not seem like that, but considering where they were and where people have put them, I think that's where they'll end up. And my big surprise, I'm going to go for Villa getting... I think they're going to push top four really close, if not get it. I think that with the fact that they're not in the Champions League, Unai is a master of these lower-end European competitions, and he's very good at rotation in the early stages of them. So I think that they can manage that. And I quite like some of the additions that they made whilst keeping the core pieces together. So I think Villa, plus the fact that I think Unai Emery's like top 3 manager in the Premier League, all that together, I've got them as the surprise package.
Okay. This ain't part of my prediction show that's coming out, so I'm going to answer. I think underachievers, I'm going to go with Manchester City. I'm not going to explain why, because that'll ruin my show tomorrow. And everything's pound for pound, isn't it? Because I think if Brighton finished 4th, they'd probably be the biggest surprise package of the year because of, their budget and stuff. Biggest surprise? Tottenham. I think Tottenham are going to shock a lot of people this year. I think Tottenham are going to be... I got called out by Staffy last night. Probably just Staffy looking for clicks again, to grow off my name. We know how people like him roll. You know what I mean? Just clout chasers. That's all they are. Big up, Staff. See you tomorrow on Straight Facts, brother. I think they're going to be one of the hardest teams in the league to beat. I think it's about time Spurs realize who and what they are, and that their squad is very unlikely to be, at least in the short term, the best, second best, third best, fourth best, fifth best in the league. They had a little period under Poch where it probably was, but generally they're not going to be in that space. They brought in the best manager for their club. They're going to play to their means. They're going to play to the best of the ability of the squad, and they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to be hard to beat. They're going to grind a lot of results out. They're going to be like Brentford, but with an actual budget. And I think that they'll be the biggest surprise of the season.